Hello, everyone. This is Daryl Guberman, CEO of Guberman PMC LLC, a quality consulting firm here in Connecticut. I just read an article about Boeing is grappling with like a hiring freeze with this strike that's going on. Well, let me just tell you a couple facts here. You know, they talk about the employees, and I've heard a lot of talk about it, about, they have to build quality into the aircraft, all the rest of this. I'm going to say this. Boeing's been fucking up quality for over 22 years. And I can say fucking because Patrick Shanahan said it about the F-35 program when he was Deputy Secretary of Defense. You always hear me when I talk about this mess. Patrick Shanahan, a 30-plus year former employee of Boeing, got picked by Donald Trump for his Deputy Secretary of Defense, And I have to say this, when he was asked about the F-35 Lockheed Martin aircraft, he said that the program is fucked up. And he said it. Now he is the CEO of Spirit Aerospace Systems. What is that all about? Do they pick quality individuals? I'm not saying that he's not a good guy, but I've never heard any public officials say the program's fucked up. But it is. He was right, though. I have to say, I have to give him his rightfully dues that after 801 F-35s, they're still producing them with rejects, or as David Calhoun didn't know the definition when he was asked after the Alaska air door popped off the plug about an escape. That's a fancy schmancy word for rejection, okay? That's face facts. Don't let anybody try to candy coat that bullshit. So... Yes, Patrick Shanahan was correct. In a GAO report, Government Accounting Office report, Inspector General, in 2013, they had 719 rejections. Now, that's 11 years ago. 719 rejections on the F-35, 100 of which could cause loss of aircraft and loss of pilot. Today, we read just last week that the aircrafts are still being produced with rejections, but now it's up to 821. You can't make this up. Now, let me go over Boeing's fiasco. For 22 years, Boeing gave up source inspection, or as we say, on-site inspection, to two pieces of paper. PRI, a Performance Review Institute, and also Performance Review Institute was the company that handled all special processes, whether it's heat treat, welding, non-destructive testing, radiography, etc. Send in your certificate, Boeing required, and send in your parts, and Boeing does not have to do on-site audits. That was in April of 2002. In July of 2002, they came out with a supplier bulletin that stated, if you are AS9100 certified for aerospace, just send in your certificate as long as it is for or credited from ANSI ANAB. Why? Because Boeing sits on the board of ANSI ANAB. They took that down, ladies and gentlemen. I have the actual web page I took a picture of. That's up here on TikTok. It's called Management. It's called Management Committee, which can grant, suspend, and withdraw certification. Isn't that fancy schmancy for Boeing to be able to take away a certificate from one of their suppliers or even themselves for poor quality, which they never did? So that's one on the supplier bulletin from 2002. Number two, they have it on the supplier portal. We have pictures of that too, web page pictures, just in case if they change that mess around as I expose it. But they're running all kinds of ways now. I don't think they're even concentrating on this. On their supplier portal, which the suppliers use to become a supplier, or they're already a supplier, but these are the requirements. It states third-party registrar must be ANSI, ANAB, or internationally equivalent, which could be China, Iran, Pakistan, because they are equivalent in accreditation to ANSI, ANAB. So we have that. We have the supplier bulletin 2002, supplier portal, and also Boeing's committee, okay, that can grant, suspend, and withdraw certification. Okay, and Boeing is a member of their accreditation body, which goes against ISO 17011 for accreditation of both registrars and accreditation bodies. 4.4, impartiality. You're not supposed to have any financial contact or paying any of these people, but they also, sitting on ANSI ANAB, they have 7 registrars that are accredited by ANSI ANAB. You have TUV SUD, TUV Ryland, DQS, NSF, NQA, you have BSI, and Intertech. 7 registrars, which really goes against that standard. These are standards that were made up. Don't get ISO is basically owned by ANSI. Don't let anybody kid you. They're not going to deny it. They try not to show it on paperwork, but we know the dirty deeds behind that. It's disgusting, ladies and gentlemen. So we continue on. David Calhoun, the CEO, who took over after Dennis Muhlenberg jumped ship, basically he was forced out because of the 2 aircraft, Ethiopian Air and Indonesian Air. David Calhoun got a 45% increase in pay from what Senator Hawley said when I was there on July 18th of this year. You have these employees, 32,000. I told them they should demand the board. They should demand the board of directors to let David Calhoun forfeit his $45 million exiting, whatever it's going to be, and split that up amongst the 32,000 employees. That would be $1,406.25. In 2009, Boeing was made an FAA regulator, which means the FAA came in and made some of the employees at Boeing FAA inspectors, but they were getting the salary from Boeing. We go on a little bit further, and within the context of an article that we have, this self-certification that Boeing got, or dispensation I call it, from the FAA in 2009, and they maintained that for 10 years, and we're going to tell you this, that the MCAS system, new aircraft technology that comes under, and design, where I stood up because I know about all this baloney. I have 40 plus years in quality, aerospace, medical implants, medical materials, printing and plastic distribution, where we dealt with all the industries. But I stood up without being invited there, ladies and gentlemen, without being questioned, without anything. I just stood up and I told them the truth, that Boeing gave up supplier on-site audits for over 22 years. Do you know what that means? Well, every time you sit your ass, your tukis, your dupa, your pusan on a chair, a seat in one of those aircraft made by Boeing between 2002 and present, you don't know really where it came from. I, as a quality professional, am asking Boeing to let us look. Freedom of information. Let us look at the documentation from suppliers that you allowed to send in an AS9100 certificate, as long as it's ANSI ANAP accredited. Okay, let us take a look at the books. If you remember this, ladies and gentlemen, if they can't find the paperwork on that door plug that came off the Alaska Air, do you think they're going to find paperwork, critical paperwork from flight safety parts that go back 10 years, go back 5 years? They're supposed to keep that paperwork. From what I understand, what we used to do in the aerospace industry, it was the life of the aircraft. Okay, they had to keep that data because if something happens, you have all that line of history. They can't even keep paperwork for a door plug. Do you think they're going to have critical paperwork? More than likely not. So they were made an FAA regulator in 2009, and they didn't have to talk about MCAS. They didn't have to tell anybody about MCAS, new aircraft designs. And then in 2019, after the Ethiopian Air and Indonesian airline went down, the FAA spokesperson came out and said the FAA never allows any company to police themselves or self-certify. And then the DOJ most recently, this is disgusting, said that Boeing lied to the FAA. No, DOJ, Merrick Garland, you're incorrect. Absolutely. All right? Absolutely incorrect, because in 2009, Boeing was an agency, an FAA agency made that way because they could self-certify, stamp out they could basically design, build, fly, and approve. And just get the FAA to initial that because they were given that authority by the FAA in 2009. And DOJ is bullshitting you, ladies and gentlemen. Just remember, when you get on one of those Boeing aircraft, and I am a shareholder, when you get on one of those Boeing aircraft, just remember, you really don't know where those parts come from. I, as a quality professional, am asking Robert Kelly Oberg, under his stressful situation, which he's probably not that stressed over this strike, he bought a $4.1 million house. I would like to see that documentation as a quality professional and a quality expert for 40 plus years. 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS @yahoo.com.